to get a bit of a interesting contrast here. So this is a pair of wrist mitts from a book called, I'll check my notes because the pattern itself is on my phone. Where is it? Excellent question. Come on, where are you? Oh, I haven't written it down yet. Okay. This is from a book called Knits in a Day. It is a pair of wrist muffs, and it is in a chevron stitch. Chevron stitch and a ripple stitch are pretty much the same thing. You will have seen me doing a ripple stitch in a crochet version in the Christmas ripple blanket that I just very recently finished. So this is a knitted version. I am presently doing the wrong side row in a mirror stitch because I don't want to be bothered to have to purl all of those stitches on the other side. So this is in kind of 3 sections where you have the chevron stitch, and there's a line of purl, and then you have another inch of chevron stitch. So this one is just the knit back, or what would be the case if you were actually going trading back and forth with your turning the knitting rather. You would be purling this, but because I'm doing mirror knitting, I am going to just knit it back. They used a very pretty variegated yarn in the pattern for this. I am not concerned about doing that in particular. This is partially a stash use up kind of a project for me. It's not actually the most effective because solid color worsted weight yarn is something that is going to be maintained in the stash. I just have spare skeins of not all, but a lot of these colors stowed elsewhere in my house, and they are very easy to require, so I really, practically speaking, should be focusing more on the things that are kind of currently clogging up the stash in its current state, which is more the random bits and bobs of specialty yarns or things that were a little more expensive than the value worsted weight stuff that I'm working with right now. Don't get all jiggly on me, sweetie. Hold still. There we go. That being things that I had bought honestly before I really knew what I was doing, and now I'm left with quantities of yarn that I bought for the purpose of making into wearable items that I don't actually have sufficient yarn in them to make wearables necessarily, which is definitely a tactical error on my part, but there, I will extend the me of yesterday some forgiveness because I didn't know. It's like I plan to make like a tank top. How much more than 1 ball of yarn could I possibly need? Well, depending on the size of yarn and the weight of it, the answer is 5. Or even 6, depending on what it is and how I'm planning to do it. And then, of course, with crochet, you actually use more yarn than what you would use with knitting. So I currently have, of those random things of yarn I have, I believe, 2 items that are cast on currently. And I actually found that one of the ones that I have slated for needing to be used will actually work with a fall colorwork motif scarf that I plan to use. Okay, now we're going to knit some chevrons. So knitted chevrons and crochet chevrons actually follow, unsurprisingly, for anyone that knows what they're doing, a very similar, oh dear, stop, there we go, stitch theory. So you start usually with a decrease. You have some number of stitches that make up the distance between the peaks and the valleys. In this case it's 2. With the Christmas ripple blanket it was 11. Now we're going to do an increase. The exact kind of increase you do can vary by pattern. There is more than one. In this case I'm using a knit front back. Same number of stitches to travel between your peak and valley. And then we're going to do 2 decreases. Now we're going to be doing a slip slip knit, which is a decrease that slants to the left. So I've slipped both of the stitches knitwise. I'm going to put them on, back onto the needle, and then I'm going to knit them underneath. So you see that it slants that way. I am now going to knit 2 together, which is the slitting to the right. So knit 2 together is generally the more common stitch you will see, but if you look at this, you'll see that they come together into kind of a peak when you use them both together like that. You'll use slip slip knit, or slip slip knit rather, gets used a lot in lace kind of things, or if you're trying to get a very specific look of the stitches all converging on a spot. So we have again our traveling stitches. We're going to do our increase of a knit front back. Knit front back looks like a knit and a purl on the facing side. See, it looks like a knit and a purl. That is part of the reason why you'll sometimes see a yarn over used, or a if you don't want to have a hole in the fabric, you may have a lifted increase where you basically pick up this thing from the middle part and you knit into that. Doing just a yarn over would give you what looks kind of like a hole in the stitch pattern. Actually, this thing is not blocked yet, but I can actually show you a demonstration of that. I just knit this headband. It's actually out of the same book as These Muff Thing, which is also part of why it's in the same color. But you see here where there's these holes in kind of this lace pattern. Those are where there's been a yarn over. And you can see how you have the stitch lines kind of leaning to the sides. That is because of the strategic use of those slip slip knits and the knit 2 togethers. This guy needs to be blocked because he is curling in all over himself, but I just finished that like half an hour ago or something like that, so I'm not too worried about it, especially with it being so small. I'll probably do the work of a few of these and then just do like a, well, maybe we'll see how it ends up panning out, but I might do a video of finishing a bunch of stuff, just kind of like marathon through a few of them. I'll have to block that one first, but stuff doesn't, depending on what it is, doesn't always need to be blocked. In that one's case, it is curling a lot, so it will be blocked. And it will need to be blocked by probably a wet, maybe even a warm wet method, because this is an acrylic. And acrylic is very stubborn about blocking. It doesn't block very well. It's not like wool or some of the other natural fibers where when you block it, the fibers themselves actually relax and they'll kind of set themselves into the pattern. Acrylic does not behave in the same way. For acrylic, usually your blocking is mostly to stop rolling. It won't have as profound of an effect on the finished piece as it blocking would on the wool or silk or something like that. Okay. This one has will have a sewn on snap closure. Pattern wants a decorative button. I'll see if I do that or not. I do have some decorative buttons. That was the wrong thing to do. That needs to be a pearl. I do have some decorative buttons, so I might do it. Depends on how lazy or not I'm being at the time. This is a fairly quick knit so far. I do have to just remember that I need to make 2 of them, because I do have 2 hands. I was wearing a wearable blanket earlier whilst I was putting my small child down for his bedtime, to which he started requesting a blanket, but he was already wearing his blanket I usually give him, which is the one that I had crocheted to be a couch blanket, and then he stole it, and now it lives in his room. But no, he wanted the blanket that I had on my shoulders, so I just wanted him to go to bed. So I've given it him for now. My older child used to take it all the time too, so. They do like their blankets, which is particularly funny because I'm pretty sure that both of my children, once they fall asleep, kick off all the blankets. Having a very poor time with focusing tonight, Mr. Camera. There goes the butterfly. I wonder if he's going to eat his supper. Probably not. Did you step on your own tail, Mr. Mumble? biggest thing if you want to do mirror knitting for your return on a flat piece is you really have to remember that, or the quick thing to remember is that every time it says knit, you purl. If it says purl, you knit. And because you're doing basically a purl stitch on the opposite side from you, you also have to remember to wrap it the correct way. I say as I am not putting in my stitch the proper way. Alright. To loosen up a little on my tension. What am I doing? I don't need to do that. I haven't done that much use of bamboo needles in the round. They're very grippy on the yarn, especially this acrylic. Come on. Let go of it. That's better. So I have somehow managed to have almost entirely knit projects. I may have talked about this in the last video. I do not remember. It's been a while since I last recorded it. But yeah, I've got... usually I have an overload of crochet projects, but currently I've got a ton of knitting ones. That'll be alright. Who knows, maybe summer is just more of a crocheting time and knitting is more of an autumn-winter thing. We'll see if any pattern about this seems to hold over time. I think I'm just about at the point where I need to do a purl row back. Which, because I don't want to actually do a purl row back, means I'll just actually turn the needles and knit it. good ending to the video. Look at that. Yes.